Hi guys, welcome back to Hairdryer Treatment, back again with another special guest. Always love to get Rick on. It's amazing to get you on again, Rick. Hope you're doing well and I hope you had a good birthday as well.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's as good as could be under the circumstances. Obviously can't go anywhere, so it wasn't that much fun, but it was okay. Yeah, it's fine.
I'm gathering you're watching a lot of football. I know it's international football, but there's football on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's as good as it gets really at the moment in time, to be fair, Rick.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously international break, so I'm going to touch on that first before we talk about United. But McTominay played yesterday. Was it the first time in 22 years Scotland have qualified now for the Euros? When you think about that, McTominay being a big part of it, a lot of people don't think he suits our midfield, don't think he's good enough to be a Manchester United midfielder. So firstly, I want to ask your opinion on that. But also, for Scotland, he's an important player. And at the moment, he's proven to be an important player for Solskjaer as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a really important player to the team. I mean, he seems to have settled on this, obviously talking about United, he's settled on this combination of McTominay and Fred in the middle of the field. And I don't see him breaking that partnership anytime soon. I really don't. Matic might get the odd game alongside. It's usually McTominay who gets a rest. I don't understand why. I know Fred's playing well, but McTominay's playing well as well. And it seems to be that Fred plays every game. Like Matic got a game against Leipzig.
Yeah.
And it was Fred who kept his place and played alongside Matic. So somebody seems to get the odd rest, whereas Fred seems to play all the time. Personally, I think McTominay's. I think he's got a great chance of being a top player. I really do. A lot of people, I hear some people regard him as a passion merchant, but you want a bit of passion, don't you? That's
of course.
It's a big part of the game. I mean, if McTominay's a passion merchant, can't that be levelled at Fred as well? That's what Fred does. He runs all over the field, tackling people, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? So
you hear a lot about McTominay's passion and that, but some of the pings, you saw one to Rashford, didn't you, where he pinged it over the top and nobody talks about it.
Plenty of pace on it. It was a rocket of a pass, that, and he tried it twice more. That just didn't quite come off. But I see the likes of Pogba and Bruno trying passes like that don't come off, and people don't even think twice about it. You know what I mean? It doesn't even get mentioned. And McTominay tries a couple, and it's he can't pass the ball. I think McTominay's honestly, I think he's got a chance of being a great player. You know, when you talk about. I think it's overlooked sometimes, the importance of a physical presence on the football pitch. And a lot of people misunderstand me when I say, to me, McTominay is ahead of Fred. I'm not saying McTominay is necessarily a better player than Fred, but there's an old saying in football. I'm not sure if you'd have heard it being a youngster, but there's an old saying in football that a good big one will always beat a good little one. And all it means is that, if you've got two players of similar ability, the person who's actually bigger and stronger will come out on top more often. It's as simple as that. And as far as I'm concerned, they've got similar ability, but McTominay's about 8 inches tall and he's got longer legs. He reaches balls. He probably reaches. What you can't see when you're watching a football game is somebody not being able to make a tackle or not being able to reach a certain ball and being able to actually grasp that somebody who's just a little bit taller would have got that ball easy. So Fred misses some balls that McTominay gets or would get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, just to stress the importance of size and strength. McTominay was superb as a centre-back last night. Absolutely superb, winning his headers. Now, I know you can't expect this because of his size, but don't hold sides against him. But if Fred would have played at centre-back for Scotland last night instead of McTominay, he probably would have lost. That might seem ridiculous to say, but it's a fact. And the fact is that the size and the strength of a player is important, and it's important in whichever area of the field you play. I think McTominay's better than Fred, and I think it by some distance, to be honest.
I like McTominay, and I think what we get is, and we've said it so many times about Matic as well, in that CDM role, we've both mentioned it before, you're there to do a job, and a lot of time that job is overlooked. If you're not a footballer, you don't necessarily see how important that player is in front of the back four. And I think McTominay, because he's not a glamorous player, he's not a skillful flair kind of player, he's not a big name, obviously because he's come through the youth and that. I think that's why there's kind of an agenda against him from certain people. But I think I like McTominay, I really do. You mentioned the passion element, he gets it United. I know you need to have some talent along with that passion, but I genuinely think he's got that. I think he went through a bit of form, yes, where he he maybe wasn't hitting the heights that we know that he can do, but I do think lately he definitely deserves to be in that starting lineup. And I'm going to ask you about Paul Pogba in a minute. And do you see him getting back into it? Because obviously, as usual, whenever the news is slow, there's a lot of talk about Pogba. But I just want to read this. Adam, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, "Hi Sophie and hey Ricky, happy birthday Ricky for yesterday. Hit the like button, subscribe button, please. Guys, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the like just to wish Ricky a happy birthday for yesterday as well. I'd appreciate that. But yeah, Ricky, Pogba, in all honesty, there's a lot of rumours that he could be on his way, he could be leaving, he's unhappy. At this moment in time, for me, he doesn't deserve to be starting at this moment in time. Can you see him working his way back into it? Because we all know the potential of Paul Pogba. We all know how good he can be. Can we fit him in? I think that's the question, isn't it?
I don't see how he can fit him in, to be honest. I really don't. Like we just touched on there, he's settled on McTominay and Fred. He's always going to have one attacking player. It's going to be difficult to dispossess Bruno of his position. I think that's a position that Van der Beek's after as well. You know, he's not just Pogba looking for a game in that role, the attacking midfield role, or the number 10 as it's become really, you know, for Bruno. And you know, he played when we played the Diamond against Arsenal. He ended up tracking Bellerin most of the game, and you know, once your job is to track one of their fullbacks, whether you like it or not, that's what sort of playing on the wing really. So as much as you try and play with the Diamond, you can't just leave their fullbacks to double up against our fullback. So you end up pushing out there, and you know, he's pushed out there marking Bellerin, and obviously ended up tripping Bellerin up, by the way, and giving him a penalty.
Yeah.
But, it just doesn't suit Paul Pogba's style. His role is ideally suited to play. I mean, I think he played a little bit more defensively for France during the World Cup, and I think his role would possibly be McTominay's or Fred's role, but he doesn't play with the same dynamism that those two play.
Yeah.
So I think but I don't see him getting it. I don't see him getting it. Go on.
I was going to say with Pogba, he's not disciplined though. You mentioned the Fred and McTominay position. We've seen against Southampton last season how many times he tries to do a little flick and whatnot, tries to be clever, and when you lose it just in front of your back four, immediately obviously you're in trouble. And I think he's too much of a risk to play there. I really do. And I'm not sitting here saying Paul Pogba is a poor player, Paul Pogba isn't good enough. I'm sitting here saying I don't know how he's going to fit in. I genuinely can't see how we get the balance in that team because we're so unbalanced, aren't we? And I think for me in the pecking order at the moment, Van der Beek is higher than Paul Pogba.
I would. I like the look of Van der Beek in a big way, but I don't think he's higher in all his pecking order. But Pogba seems to come on as a sub a bit more often than Van der Beek does in the league games. For me, I'd start looking towards the future, me, because I don't think Pogba's really going to be. I do think he'll be gone in. If not, I'm not saying in January, but probably next summer. I think he'll go, and I think it's time. VDB Van der Beek started getting a few more games instead.
Yeah, I agree. Adam's asked you a question there, Ricky. He says, what do you think the best position is for Van der Beek?
It's a massive problem for Ollie, that, because I'm convinced his best position is number 10, and also Bruno's best position is number 10. You know, look, any player will be prepared to play in different roles. Any player will make a good go of it if you ask him to do it. You know, they'd rather play than not play. I'm sure he'd go and play left back if you asked him to play left back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You make the best of it as you can. But it doesn't mean that you're happy playing that role, and you always want to try and get into the position in the team that suits you best. I watched him play for Holland during the week, and he was definitely playing in a number 10 role, and he looked class in that position. He
does. He seems comfortable in that position. Do you not think it's a case where Bruno could possibly be the 8 though? Bruno is, because we've seen how far Bruno drops sometimes to get the ball. He does drop deep, but at the same time he plays a bit too high sometimes, as we've mentioned. Would Bruno suit maybe more of that box-to-box freer role and Van der Beek playing in the 10?
Well, the only thing about that is you'd have to lose Fred or McTominay, wouldn't you, to do that?
Yeah, and again, it's that balance. How do you get the balance? Is that?
I just don't see it happening, really.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of that, it's good to have a headache as a manager. I completely agree with that. But when Van der Beek came in, I remember doing a show with Meg, and we were both saying, where is he going to fit in? And we were looking forward to see how it was going to pan out. And at this moment in time, Ollie is still obviously trying to find the answer. It's one of them. But we mentioned Pogba possibly out the door. There's a lot of rumours, and I'm saying rumours, so do not believe. Take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt. It's just what's circulating. It is international break, so they do put Manchester United's name in headlines to sell a bit. We know that. Cristiano Ronaldo, there's rumours that it could be coming back. There's also rumours that Pogba could be involved in that deal. If that was the case, Ricky, Considering the way it's going for Pogba right now, would you take that deal?
So that's a tricky question, that, Soph. Ronaldo, I think he's 36 next birthday, isn't he?
Look at him, though. Just look at him.
Fit as a fiddle, and how long is he going to go on? You don't often see strikers going on to 38 and 39, do you? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's a right tricky question. I probably would do it. If you're asking me, would I rather have Ronaldo in my squad if you just say for one season, because you don't know how long he's going to last, would I rather have Ronaldo in my squad for one season or Pogba for one season? I'd take Ronaldo day of the week. The thing is, though, hopefully Pogba's got a 50 or 60 million pound sell-on value. And that's cheap compared to what we paid for him and compared to what we were talking about 12 months ago. Well, that's the rumour. It was it in one of the papers that United had accept 54 million for him or something now?
Yeah.
But 54 million is still 54 million. I mean, there's not going to be a sell-on value for Ronaldo, I don't think, if you sign him. So that's the only balancing act, I think. But certainly as for strengthening our squad and where we need players. And a great goal scorer that he is, if I had to just choose between the two players, I'd definitely take Ronaldo.
Yeah, I would take it. Cristiano Ronaldo, we know what he's like, but also the element of Pogba being unhappy. I think if it is true that Paul Pogba is unhappy, of course he's not going to be happy sat on the bench. You don't want an unhappy player there, do you? So I think there's that element of it as well. And for Paul Pogba's own career, I think he would probably look at that deal and think, yeah, I'm up for that, because Juventus obviously was some of his best playing years, and I'm sure he'd definitely go back there. But it's an interesting one. You talk about age, obviously someone put there, Zlatan is a good example of that. He's now 39. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? And I think the thing with Ronaldo, he has adapted his game, hasn't he? Obviously, he's doesn't rely so much on the pace anymore. Aerially, we know how good he is. It definitely give us something a bit different. But talking of forwards, Cavani got his first goal against Everton. I love the assist from Bruno because he could have easily got his hat-trick. Nice little disguise pass to Cavani. How good do you think Cavani will be for us? I mean, he's got his first goal, and I don't want to say he's starting the next game because we all know your thoughts on Martial. I rate Martial as well. But Cavani, do you think that he's knocking on the door to maybe get a start at some point?
I like the look of him. I think he deserves to get a chance at some stage, but the same applies to Van der Beek. And as I always say, you can only play 11, Soph, can't you?
Exactly.
There's rumours today. I mean, Marcus Rashford joined up with the England squad. He was supposed to be sort of targeting being able to play on Sunday against Belgium, but immediately returned to Manchester after he joined the squad. And has said that he's now not fit for that game, and there's rumours that he might not be fit for the West Brom game. Don't know if that's true, but that's what I've read. If he's not fit for, I would have thought if he was supposedly thinking about being fit for this Sunday, I always think like that, mate. If he's supposed to be fit for this Sunday, surely he's going to be fit for following Sunday, following Saturday, whatever it is. But if it's true that he's not fit for next week, there's half a chance next week that I hope. If that happens, I hope Ollie doesn't decide that it's his excuse to try and fit another midfield player in, an attacking midfield player, and go back with the diamond or put Pogba and Bruno in it together. I hope he just goes with another wide left player, which there's two ways around that. He could either put Dan James in straight as a straight swap, but what he could do, and I would like to see him do this, I'd like to see him play Cavani at 9 and switch Marshall to that. Yeah. And I think it'd be absolutely brilliant. I really do. And
Luke Shaw obviously is a doubt. So if Tellez is back in, whipping those crosses in for Cavani, that's something that I want to see when he is back in.
Yeah.
Him whipping the balls into Cavani in the area, that's something, because Cavani thrives on that. We know he's a poacher. Martial is a different kind of player, isn't he? But in terms of Martial, a lot of people getting on his back. Obviously, he hasn't scored many this season. Do you think it's a case where he gets one? Obviously, he scored the penalty, but when he gets one in the league, they'll just flow after that. Do you think it's not necessarily his performances? He just hasn't had the chances yet.
Yeah, to start with, he's missed 3 games, suspended, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's not scored in the league yet, has he? But I'm not even concerned about Anthony Martial. The only look, I love Anthony Martial. I think he's a fantastic player, and when he's not playing, we miss him drastically. We miss him when he's not there. His hold-up plays, link-up play, and everything else. And I see people saying, but he's there to score. He is there to score goals, but it's also true, without any doubt, that so long as somebody scores, it doesn't matter who scores. So he's come back into the team, and we've got 3 goals at Goodison Park. So it's the team that's got 3 goals. I don't care who scores them. And if Marshall hadn't have played, he had 3 involvements in the first goal. So I'd like to say something about that. If you don't get the first goal, you might not get the second goal or the third goal either. And he was massively important in getting that first goal, and I mean massively. So when he plays, we play better, we score more goals, and it really and truly doesn't matter who scores them. And when I watch him play, he's such an unselfish player, such a clever player. I think he thinks like that as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think...
Yeah, the way he links up with Rashford.
Yeah,
you see it a lot.
Yeah, he's fantastic, Marshall. It doesn't... So, what I was about to say there, and I went off at a tangent, what I was about to say there, I'm desperate for him to score goals, but the only reason I'm desperate for him to score goals is to keep the people quiet who are saying he's not scoring enough goals. I'm not really concerned about him scoring goals, so long as the team score goals, and when he plays, we score more goals.
Yeah, that's it. And it's everything else in his game, though. Like I mentioned with Rashford, even Bruno, constantly looking straight into his feet. Pogba, when he comes on, you always see him looking for Martial. And his link-up play, I think, is underrated, to be honest with you. But I'm pretty sure Martial will be firing soon. It's one of them, though, isn't it? As a striker, his confidence is knocked by. We know that he's scrutinised as a striker. I think George Kyle put something in there saying that Martial hasn't had a shot on target this season. Do you think he's playing differently, or a different role? Maybe linking up more. I think Martial's game is a lot of his play is linking up. He's a very intelligent player, little 1-2s. I don't know. I think it's one of them where I think once one goes in, you hear it so many times, but I genuinely think they'll flow. I think he's a good enough player, but you know his ability. He's just got to trust his ability, and I'm sure it'll come. And I hope against West Brom it bags. I hope he gets as soon as possible, because I think the sooner he starts scoring, obviously, the better. But in terms of West Brom, go on, Rick.
Can I just mention something else about Anthony Martial? Because I just saw that there that the lad asked about. He hasn't had a shot on target. Anthony Martial's decision making and his unselfishness is absolutely second to none. If he wants to have a shot on target, he'll have a shot on target. The thing is, he often realises that the best option is to pass the ball. Some of our players shoot from silly positions or positions from distance, and Anthony Martial rarely does that. So if he'd had a couple of shots from, say, 30 yards or 26 yards that's gone straight down the keeper's throat and they count as shots on target, he understands the game. It doesn't, would people be appeased because he's had 2 shots on target that the keeper's the keeper catches it and throws it out to the fullback and they're on the break? Anthony Martial understands the game. He doesn't shoot when it's really not on. So if he wanted to have had a shot on target by now, he would have had a shot on target, but he won't shoot when it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, he looks like he's a very intelligent player, but I want to talk about shooting, decision-making. Bruno Fernandes against Everton was very important of a player he is, but at the same time, and I've heard you say it before, how frustrating of a player can he be as well? Because I like the fact he's always trying things. I like it. But how is it that he can get away with giving the ball away so many times and that yet other players don't? And I do think it's the element of the fact that Bruno came in and transformed us. I love Bruno Fernandes and I think he's quality. But at the same time, the amount of time he gives the ball away, do you think it's concerning, Rick, or is it just something that we have to live with and just obviously the positives that come with it, we have to live off them?
The positives that come with it, I'm not sure about this. He's obviously got lots of assists and lots of goals since he joined us, but I don't think the assists and the goals are coming from speculative things. I think if he cuts out the speculative things, I think most of his assists are coming from simple play, from good passes straight to people's feet. That's where his assists come from. So he's trying these speculative passes, if you like, or risky passes, as people call them. And I see lots of people saying we still need him to do that, but I'm not so sure we still need him to do that, because it isn't really what's creating the goals. He creates the goals when he passes the simple passes to people's feet. That's where his assists come from.
I think it's a case of like he's trying too hard sometimes to do the special pass or do you know what I mean? To get the perfect goal ultimately, sometimes he's trying a bit too hard. Whereas sometimes I think it's more effective if you did the little 1-2s, like mentioned Martial, for example, doing that little 1-2 passes rather than trying, I don't know, a strike from distance where he probably would have been better off passing. I think sometimes it's like he feels the onus is on him to deliver, when obviously we always say it's a team game, but I think he's so talented. I love his work ethic and his passion. But at the same time, I think when it's not going right for us and you give the ball away so many times, it becomes frustrating, doesn't it? And I think you've got to, I keep saying the word balance, but you've got to have that in your game. Adam, thank you for the super chat. He says, although Martial might not be scoring, his hold-up play is brilliant. Start him on the left and Cavani at 9 against West Brom. I would definitely like to see that. I mean, West Brom, how are you feeling going into that one, Rick? Because we've seen us struggle against teams that will maybe sit in against us. West Brom have had a mixed start to the season, haven't they? I mean, how are you going into that one? Are you feeling positive? Are you feeling confident right now as a United fan?
Well, I always say so, and I've probably said this to you at least a couple of times in the past. You never know what team he's going to pick there. But if he against a team like West Brom, I think there's got to be room for one Matter in the side. He can open defences up, with the little short passes. If he picks the right team, if he suddenly thinks against West Brom that, and it wouldn't surprise me, if he suddenly thinks that it's West Brom at home and he can ditch one of his two defensive type midfield players and play Pogba. Once you've got Pogba and Bruno, if it happens to be one of those days, and how can you predict what sort of day it is? I mean, when you just speak about Bruno, he simplified his game against Everton. He scored 2 goals, made a goal. Absolutely brilliant. You couldn't have asked for more. And yet only 4 days earlier, he was absolutely horrendous, giving the ball away. Was it 34 times, I think was the figure that was being bandied about on Twitter. You know what I mean? So he was horrendous on Wednesday and brilliant on Sunday. So it's a case of which Bruno turns up, and also if he does ditch McTominay or Fred, it'd probably be McTominay if he ditched one of them, just to put Pogba in. I think it'd be worse again, because then you've got 2 players who think they've got to try and open up the opposition. I prefer players like Juan Mata who are not actually trying to open up the opposition. They understand the importance, and Anthony Martial's the same, of keeping the ball with the red shirts and then trying to make a chance when the opportunity is there to make a chance, rather than that phrase that they use, they call it forcing it these days. Don't try to force it. I think on a bad day, Bruno tries to force it too often, and so does Pogba. So if we've got 2 players doing that, even against West Brom, it could go badly wrong.
Yeah, I will defend on that, though. I'll say, as an attacking player, watching United, when we've been boring, when we've been playing the safe passes, I do think, we've seen Matic do it from holding midfield a lot of the time, a little disguised ball in between the lines. I do think there has to be an element of taking a risk there, which I think hasn't been there. I think Bruno has been the one to take that risk. And yeah, a lot of the time it doesn't pay off, but I kind of think in my head at least he's trying something rather than just the safe sideways passes that I think we've seen far too often. But at the same time, like we mentioned, you've got to choose your moments, have you? I think too often we've seen it being given away. We need to just, like you said, keep it with the red shirts and keep it ticking. And I think it's about decision-making, isn't it? We've questioned decision-making from several players. And I think that's one thing that we really struggle with as a team. I really do. I want to go to the defence a little bit. We spoke a lot about the attacking players. Harry Maguire. We all know what happened, obviously, when he went on holiday and whatnot. He's had a lot of stuff to deal with. Scored again for England yesterday. He had a torrid time, didn't he? He got sent off, and that a lot of people getting on his back. A lot of people saying he need to be dropped. Ollie's stuck with him. Do you think he's coming out the other side of that now? Do you think we're seeing more of the Harry Maguire we thought we were signing?
I think so, yeah. But I think he played well for England the other night. I mean, I think Republic of Ireland were pretty poor, to be honest, but obviously it's great for him to get a goal. But I think United are more solid defensively because they've gone with a better team shape, really, just recently.
Yeah.
Earlier in the season, when it was a shambles, there's a lot of people sort of saying that, criticising the defenders. I mean, I said on the United Stand show, I think during that period, that we've got to get more defensive-minded players in midfield and get a better team shape about us. And he went with a 4-4-2 at Newcastle. If you think about 4-4-2 at Newcastle, where he had Juan Mata and Dan James on the flanks, and he had McTominay and Fred in the middle. So not only have you got McTominay and Fred in the middle, but when the opposition try to come down the outside, you've got 2 people tracking back. When you've got 2 people tracking back, it means the centre-backs have not got to come out of position so often. So that the whole thing's just more solid, and it's just a better shape to play with. And it became, he used that formation twice. He used it against Newcastle and we won 4-1, and then he used it against Chelsea, the exact same team, and we drew 0-0. And a lot of people were up in arms with the Chelsea game, but the previous time that we played against a big team at Old Trafford, we got beat 6-1. So I think you should be careful what you wish for sometimes. You know what I mean?
That Chelsea game, I think it was the case where both teams just like you said, they didn't want to concede. That they just didn't want to take that risk. It was both teams just cancelling each other out, wasn't it? And no, I do believe if we'd have gambled and actually rolled the dice, we could have won that game. But it's like you say, it's like that.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you, Soph. I'm not sure I agree with you. After about half an hour, he brought Pogba on. I can't remember who went off. Mata and James went off. He brought Pogba on. Can't remember who came on at the same time, but we ended that game with Rashford. Martial was suspended, wasn't he, at that stage? We ended up with Rashford on the pitch, Bruno on the pitch, Greenwood on the pitch, Pogba on the pitch, pretty much like we were doing earlier in the season. And if you think about the end of that game, they had us under pressure the last 10 minutes or so. Yeah, not that this counts for a lot, but I remember the commentator saying, well, United have brought all the big guns on, but it looks like Chelsea looked more like scoring. You know what I mean? So
because of that, like playing too safe, like being like, I don't know, we just seemed to cancel each other out. We couldn't break them down. We couldn't work our way through Chelsea. We've seen that so often, haven't we? Even though we've got all our most creative players on the pitch, we don't have the creativity to unlock defences when they're penned in. Like when we just don't have the ability to do it. And I think that does then obviously come on down to the tactical side of it, the coaching. Someone's asked as well what your opinion is. I can't find the comment now. I apologise for that. But on the Romero, I mean, I haven't spoken about this on my channel yet. The treatment of Romero, obviously, there's rumours that I think he was training alone. The last I've heard, it was blocked, wasn't he? A move to Aston Villa. You've seen Henderson has obviously been on the bench a lot. Romero seems nowhere near the team. And like I say, this is all hearsay. This is only what I've seen on Twitter and whatnot. So take it with a pinch of salt. But if that is the case, I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Ricky?
He's been a fantastic servant to the club. Yeah. He's been a fantastic number 2, and I think I think Everton were interested in him during the window. And again, you never know 100% to believe what you read. But I think I read in the Manchester Evening News that United didn't want him to go to a team that might be challenging him for the top 4 spot. You know what I mean? I don't know whether if they think Everton are going to stay up that high. I mean, obviously Everton are in front of us at the.
Got a bit of a lag from Ricky. Hopefully he comes back in. But yeah, he's talking obviously about the gap between us and the top teams. Are you back with us, Ricky?
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
You're back. You seem to be back. Carry on. You're on about Everton. I'd like to fill the gap for you.
Yeah, I was just saying that the Evening News said that that they didn't want Romero to go to Everton because they might be a team that could be challenging us for the top 4. After the service that he's given us, I would have let him go because we've now got an unhappy player, haven't we? That's not even getting on the bench.
It's a shame. That's a good point. Now I was just reading that Romero would get Pickford out of the team. Pickford, and what's your opinion on him? Because that challenge on Maguire. The only thing I can say why that wasn't a penalty is because you saw a little push from Maguire beforehand. And the thing that got me was that wasn't even mentioned. They didn't say it wasn't a penalty because it was a foul from Maguire. They just acknowledged that the Pickford challenge wasn't a foul, and that's what baffled me. I was thinking, how is that the case? But it's just a lunatic. That's the only way I can put Pickford. Like, it just seems absolutely mental, doesn't it?
Yeah, the challenge against Van Dijk.
Yeah.
And then the challenge against Maguire. I agree with you. I didn't know that Maguire had pushed his hand into Pickford's chest while I was watching the game live. I didn't know that until I was watching Match of the Day that night. Yeah. So Match of the Day pointed it out. But usually when you're watching the game live, they usually say to you, I don't know, say somebody scored a goal and it looked offside. They might say, he's actually onside, but they're looking at something else. He might have fouled.
Exactly.
They normally tell you. So they didn't say, they're looking at whether Maguire fouled him first. So I'm not 100% convinced that they spotted that. I just think they didn't give the penalty. You know what I mean? And then Match of the Day spotted that there was a possible foul.
Yeah, because he kind of eased him out of the way, didn't he? It wasn't like a major push. He just kind of eased him. But he would have put him off balance, in all fairness. If that was given as a foul, I'd say fair enough, like I understood. But it was the fact that it wasn't acknowledged got me. The fact that they just said, no, that wasn't a foul by Pickford when it quite blatantly was. It just baffled me a little bit. But you mentioned that the challenge on Van Dijk. Obviously, Gomez is out for Liverpool now. I've heard today, Dougie's in the chat, a Liverpool fan, that Salah's got COVID as well. I mean, that Liverpool team at the moment, they're losing some players, aren't they, Rick? Obviously, they've got Jota who's playing really, really well, but You mentioned Everton in the league, they're above us. It's all a bit open at the minute, isn't it? I know we're so far down, but when you look at the results that we've had so far, there's been a few inconsistent ones, obviously, and it's just wide open.
It's wide open because of the positions that teams are, obviously, at the minute and how close it is. But I do think Liverpool and City will pull away from everybody in the end. I really do. I don't see it staying that close.
It's hard to not see that happen, isn't it, really? It's hard to see anything different. I'm hoping that we see a bit of a spread. You know, when Leicester won the league and when we aren't going to win the league, I would just love it to be just a random team like that, spontaneous winner, not Liverpool or City. That's one thing I'll say. But yeah, West Brom, do you think we're going to get 3 points then, Rick? So we mentioned feeling going into that. They mentioned the kind of players we could see starting. Do you think we'll get 3 points? Because I believe we're at home, aren't we, in that game? Our home form poor in the league, to say the least. Are we finally going to get that win?
I think we'll win if he gets the team right. But like I said to you, I always say I've got to wait and see what the team is. You know what I mean? But if he goes with Fred and McTominay in the middle, Mata on the right, Bruno at number 10, Marshall at 9. A lot of people will say, "Oh, Dan James," but I just like players playing in the positions that are natural to them. So I'd go with Dan James on the left, or Cavani at 9 and Marshall on the left. You know, if he goes with the team, then yes. If he suddenly decides he's going to ditch McTominay for a game and go with Fred as a single player in that position, and then he fits Pogba in next to Bruno, I can see it going wrong. So let's see what he does.
I completely agree with you. I'm just reading some of the comments. So Manchester United against West Brom is now an 8 p.m. kickoff on BT Sports next Saturday for those people wondering when the game is. So there you go. If you didn't know that, there you go. Mark says the league is so far is mad. We can win the league. Consistency is key. I completely agree with that. I think that's where we've got to go now, isn't it? Obviously, a big win against Everton, a good performance. This international break, you could argue, came at either the worst possible time or the best because it allowed players to rest, but also we want to kind of carry that on, don't we? And I think that's the progress, that's the improvement there for us. We've been so inconsistent with such a yo-yo team. It depends, like you say, what United turn up. Is that the next step for Ollie now? Because you mentioned you can't see Ollie staying. And if Ollie is going to stay, he's got to find that consistency, hasn't he, Rick?
He's got to find the consistency. And to me, you find consistency by picking a fairly consistent team, as consistent as possible, really. So get your team consistent and you have more chance of getting consistency on the field. I know you can't play the exact same team every week, but I don't think we have to make quite as many changes as we are making. That's all I see it.
Yeah, because it's hard to get that consistency if you aren't playing with the same players, isn't it? As a player, it's really difficult to build those relationships and work your way in. But I mean, we mentioned centre-backs. Tuanzebe, obviously, he played against PSG, had a worldly performance. Everyone was saying he needs to start. We saw him start against Istanbul. Didn't play very well. What's your thoughts on him? Do you think that Lindelof and Maguire are the partnership and that's it, we move on from there? I know they've had the ups and downs. Let's just hope we can build from that. But do you see it as them two being the main partnership?
Yeah, definitely. I think Lindelof and Maguire is the best pairing. He's a young lad still, Tuanzebe. I need to see a little bit more of him first. He had a cracking game in Paris. Most of that, I know we changed it towards the end, but most of that game we played with 3 centre-backs. Then we just went... You see, to be fair, I've got to say this. He started in Turkey, but in Turkey, for the first time in quite a few games, this is what Ollie... He got it badly wrong. He left McTominay and Fred out. I feel sorry for Matic in this respect. McTominay and Fred were both rested in that game, and Matic played. We've got to play 2 of those 3 players. So why is it that when Matic gets a game, it was the same against Spurs when we got beat 6-1. Why is it that when Matic gets a game, sometimes he plays there on his own? I can't remember the last time McTominay or Fred played in that position as a single person, if you understand what I mean, as a loner. Whereas Matic sometimes gets played there alone. It's got to be 2 of them. I've said this a few times. When we got beat 6-1 by Spurs, it was Matic who started. Neither McTominay nor Fred started. Yeah. I believe if McTominay or Fred would have started that game on their own in that position, then we still would have got battered, and it would have been that. Well, let's say Fred would have started that game and not Matic, we still would have got murdered. We still would have got murdered. We can't get away with one of them playing. We've got to have 2 of them.
We've become don't we? Especially if it's just Matic as well, lack of pace in there as well. But I think, like you say, they become overrunning at midfield if they're not protecting that back four as well. We've seen how they're prone to making mistakes, and we need to protect them a bit, don't we? So I agree with that. I've asked people to put their questions in the chat, Rick, for you. So there's a few coming up. We've got this one first. They've stopped pay-per-view. Thank God for that, is what I'm saying. But what's your thoughts on that? Obviously, it was, £15 a game they were going to charge, and they've been that idea now. What's your thoughts on that, Rick?
Well, obviously, I didn't know they had stopped it, but if they have stopped it and they're still going to show all the games live, it's brilliant. I'd rather they kept it though if they're going to stop showing all the games live. You know, at the time they were showing every game live, weren't they? So.
Well, you know what? We're in lockdown again now, so surely they should be doing the same again, because that's the reason why they did it, to keep morale high, wasn't it? That's why they did it the first lockdown.
What surprised me was the games that they were charging for. I mean, I never got charged for watching the game, and all the big games that I wanted to watch, they were all free. Oh, they were all included in the package. They're not free, but they're included. The games, the games that they were charging for will all seem to be mid-table or bottom-table clashes that didn't really bother me anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure West Brom had 2 or 3 games on box office, because obviously I live near West Brom. There's a lot of my friends who are West Brom fans, and they were moaning, saying all their games they've already spent £45 or wherever it was, and I was just thinking it's crazy to watch West Brom and then Fulham and Burnley and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm glad it's done. If that's what I'm going to say, I'm glad it's out the way. If that is true. Doug, make sure you go and subscribe to Doug's channel. Really good content. Liverpool fan, but I always say he's all right for a scam, so he's all right. He said, Ricky, how are you finding YouTube? Obviously, you've got your own channel now. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going all right. I only started it about a little bit more. Probably 12 days ago or something. It's called the Football Philosophy Channel. I've got about 3,500 subscribers. So not too bad in a week or so. Do you know what I mean? So it's going well, and I'm getting more confident, because obviously it's a bit different. Like when there's 2 of you talking, like now, it's a little bit easier, and you're bouncing questions off each other. And when somebody asks you a question as well, it leads to other things. You probably gather. I often go off at a tangent and have to come back to what you're saying. But when you're doing it on your own, it's a bit different. So I'm going to have the odd guest on now and then. I'll help with that.
Yeah, it does help to fair, because you can just, especially when I got you on, Rick, we could talk all night about football. We just bounce off each other, and I love that. But Marco Gianni, thank you so much for the super chat. He said, what would you guys consider to be a successful season? Go on, Rick, I'll let you start on that one. Deem a successful season.
It's going to be. It's such a tough league. I mean, I was surprised Arsenal got beat by Villa the other day, but Villa are doing really well. I don't think Arsenal are going to collapse and suddenly finish 10th or something like that. I think Arteta's doing a good job there. What went wrong the other night, or maybe we should just give credit to Villa, I don't know. But I don't think Arsenal are just going to collapse. I think Chelsea are going to. I don't think Chelsea are going away. Obviously, I fancy City and Liverpool. I actually think. I normally say top 4 and win one of the smaller trophies, but to be honest, it's going to be that hard getting top 4. I would suggest that just getting top 4 will be a successful season. I'm sorry, I remember the glory days better than you do, Soph. You know what I mean? I was there in '99 when we won the Champions League. I was there in Moscow when we won that. I'd love them days to come back. But if I'm, let's be real. Let's be real about this. I think a successful season this season will be a top 4 berth. Simple as that.
It's hard to argue with that. Obviously, I think a small trophy would be nice as well.
It'd be fantastic. But if you was to say to me now, Soph, right, we're gonna finish 4th and maybe get to one semi-final, I'd say, well, I'll take that.
Yeah. Last season, that was semi-final. We couldn't get past them, could we? So I think progress should be to finally get into a final, wouldn't it? But yeah, I agree. I just want to see what some of the questions are saying. I've seen a lot of people are against the idea of the box office, and they're buzzing that it's gone. I agree with that. Donny has played as a right winger. Can he start over Mata as a right winger? I personally don't see him as a winger. Rick, I'll let you talk on that one.
Well, Mata's not a winger either, but he's such an intelligent player. He doesn't let us down in that position. So whether I don't think Donny van der Beek could let us down playing as a right winger, but I
think he's so technically, isn't he? Like he's a really technical player. I think technically, like you say, you could put him anywhere really. But I think to get the best out of him, and I've always said the same with Mata, he needs to be centrally in the thick of it. But yeah,
I think. Does this make sense? When Mata, I see Mata. I know Van der Beek's younger and probably quicker. Well, I'm sure he'll be a bit quicker. But he's more of a right-sided player, and Mata's more of a left-sided player. When I say right-sided and left-sided, I mean right foot and left foot. If you was going to play Van der Beek as a wide right player, when Mata plays in that position, when he comes in field, he's opening the field up to himself, to his left foot, and he can see these passes, and he can lay it off backwards, or he can put balls into the box, and he can just do anything with his left foot because he's got the whole pitch in front of him. Whereas a right footer coming in field, which I think Van der Beek would still want to do that. I don't. Yeah. When you think of a right winger being right-footed, you expect him to want to go on the outside. I don't think Van der Beek could be an outside merchant. He'd still want to come in field. Yeah. And I think coming in field from the right wing, you're better off having a left-footed player rather than a right-footed player.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that one. And the one with perfection, that's a good question. You kind of just went through the teams you could see being there or thereabouts. He wants specifics. He wants to know what your top four in order. What's your prediction on that one? I'll have a go as well. In order.
Predictions. First of all, I'll say it's not really a prediction because I can't really say, but I'll have a guess. I'll guess at City to win it this year. I said Liverpool the other week, but they're having a lot of injuries. I guess at City to win it, Liverpool second, Chelsea third, and I'll throw United in there at number 4.
Love that positivity, Rick. That's what it's all about. Yeah, I'm going to say City to win it. I think the injuries that Liverpool have got, I think Van Dijk is a massive loss for them. I really do. But I still think Liverpool will be thereabouts. I just think that Van Dijk bridges the gap, and without him, they lack that. So I'm going to say City, Liverpool. I'm going to have to agree with you, Chelsea, and then us. So where did you think of Spurs then, Rick? All honesty on Spurs, obviously back as well now as well. Jose seems to be picking up, isn't it?
He's really, really picking up. Yeah. I mean, I've thrown United in there because I'm United mad. I'm desperate for United to do it. If you were asking me to put money on it, I think I'd probably put Spurs in front of United. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The biggest. That's how hard it's going to be, Soph, isn't it? That's how hard it's going to be.
And that's what you say, look, at the start of the season, when people ask me what would be a good season, I was saying to get closer to City and Liverpool. Obviously, we finished third last season. I think it was a flattering third at that. I think it was a mad season last season, and it could have been anybody's. And we managed to I'm going to say crawl up to third. That's what it felt like. But this season, I said if we can get closer to the top 2, it'd be an improvement. So I'm basing on points-wise. But I think in terms of the table, we've seen Spurs improve, Chelsea have improved, Arsenal have improved. It's going to be a really tight one. It really is. And obviously, we don't seem to be improving at the minute. If anything, we seem to be stagnating, going down backwards. So I'm hoping that lifts. My daddy's in the chat, so big up to my dad. He says, did you hear Carragher's comments on Paul Pogba? He was spot on. Carragher mentioned, didn't he? He said he didn't see Paul Pogba as a great player. That was his comments. I think it was on Talk Sport or wherever it was. He says that Paul Pogba wouldn't make it into his team. I mean, we've already spoken on Paul Pogba. We've already said that we know that his potential and his ability, but I just cannot see where he fits in. And I don't think we play to his strengths, like Ricky said earlier. I just don't think our system suits him, does it? Would you agree with that?
I don't think the system suits him, but if you're a great player, like, for example, Paul Scholes was an attacking, creative player and he was a midfield player. But he really was a great player. If Paul Scholes in his pomp was available, I mean, I think, is he about 27, Pogba now? If Paul Scholes was available to United and he was 27 years of age, I don't care what anyone says, either McTominay or Fred would be out of the team and Scholes would be playing. That's what a great player does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, with Pogba, I'm sitting here and I'm obviously hoping that, what he plays against West Brom, for example, he has an absolute world in. From then on, he can push on, he can kick on, and we can see the true potential of Paul Pogba. But at this moment in time, you have to sit and say, does he deserve to be on the bench? You'd say, yeah, he does. He doesn't deserve to be starting at this moment in time. And a player of his calibre is not going to be content with just sitting there, is he? You have to be brutally honest about it. And like I say, it's a shame. But sadly, that's where Paul Pogba is right now. And it's down to him, really, to get himself out of that, isn't it?
I noticed I was glued to all the international football the last couple of nights. And I noticed that France got beat. I know it was only a friendly, but they don't want to get beat at home they got beat at home by Finland 2-0, and Pogba started, and they took him off after an hour.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if they've taken him off, and he's going to be. I'll be interested. They've got a big game tomorrow. They're playing Portugal tomorrow in that Nations League, and they're on level points.
What time is that? I'll have to watch that.
That's at, I think it's about 7:45 tomorrow night. Now, a lot of fans, I've said this on my own channel, a lot of fans are not really into that, what's it called, Nations League, but they do take it seriously. So if I watched a lot of it last time out, and you can tell by the teams that are winning it. Portugal played Holland in the final, and Holland knocked England out in the semi-final, and England were devastated when they got knocked out. Do you know what I mean? So it was they are taking it seriously. So tomorrow night it's France v Portugal. They've got 10 points apiece, and only the winner of the group goes through. So it's a proper serious game tomorrow night. So it'll be interesting to see if Pogba starts. They subbed him after an hour the other night. Now, obviously, although it was only a friendly, the manager's not going to be happy facing the cameras, is he, after the game, saying to him, why did we get beat at home by Finland? And I can't wait to see if Pogba's actually getting in the French team now. He probably will start, but I was interested to see that he did get subbed after an hour. Especially 2-0 down to a team like Finland, you'd think he's the player they'd be relying on to open him up and make the difference.
Yeah, I agree. Rahul says, what do you think of a 5-3-2, Ricky? One extra defender instead of two defensive midfielders. I think Shaw is a decent left centre-back. I do like Shaw as a left centre-back, to be fair. I think that suits him perfectly. I think that's his best position. I really do. And with Telles outside him, I think it depends who you're playing against. That's what I would say. That's my response to that. I think it depends on who you're playing against. You don't necessarily need 5 defenders against every single team, do you? But Ricky, what's your thoughts on that lineup?
I think it can work well. I mean, we have used it only in the big games, and in the big games, in the difficult games, it is about having a line of 5 there, making it difficult for them, to get through you. That's the idea of a back 5. It's a back 5, really, isn't it? When it's a difficult game, when you're under pressure. But I also believe it can work all right against the smaller teams. I mean, even against West Brom, people might go, oh, you don't need 5 defenders, but you can afford your full-backs to go forward then, can't you? Without
Telles would be more of an attacker, really. You want him to cross the ball in, don't you?
Yeah, so if you played 5 against West Brom, obviously Telles could go forward as much as he wanted, and at the same time, Wan-Bissaka could be forward on the other flank. Sometimes that helps you to keep pressure on the opposition. Sometimes a winger, or a full-back crosses it goes out of play on the other side of the field. If Wan-Bissaka's up there, he'll be there to try and keep it in. And sometimes you can just keep pressure on by having players wide and forward. Do you know what I mean? And if you can afford to do that, if you've got 3 centre-backs, you can afford both your full-backs to be up there.
I think when you're pressing like that, I think you saw it with Arsenal against us. When you press high, obviously you win the ball back higher up the pitch. Either you do that, which is obviously beneficial because you're closer to their goal, or you force them to play long, which quite often obviously plays to our advantage with Maguire in the air and whatnot. So I think it's one of them, isn't it? I think if we press high as a team, but I say as a team, I think we've seen far too often Bruno, for example, running and pressing on his own. And then he becomes more of a headless chicken then because no one else has gone with him, triangles around him, and that's where the gaps come, isn't it? So I think, like I say, it's important that it's as a unit, as a team, which we haven't seen. Phil, thank you for the super chat. He says Pogba isn't fit. He looks slower than Maguire. Someone mentioned earlier it could be that COVID has had an effect on him. He does look a bit leggy, but like I say, I'm sitting here and I'm hoping that we get the best out of Paul Pogba. I'm sitting here and hoping that he proves us wrong, that he can break into the lineup. But right now, at this moment in time, whether it's not form, whether it's fitness, I don't know what it is, and the system isn't helping, but it just doesn't seem to fit in at the moment. My dad says if we lose to the Albion, obviously as a Wolf fan, he said he's blocking me. So we've got to win that game, definitely. Thank you for picking up the retro shirt. I appreciate that. And Rick, as usual, this has been a fantastic show. As usual, we've gone on for a bit longer than we said we would, but always an absolute pleasure. Just let people know where they can find you. Shout out your new channel and get them to subscribe there as well, because it's really good content.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. It's Rick the Red UK. On YouTube, it's the Football Philosophy channel.
I will put that in the description as well, guys. Make sure you go and give Rick some subscriptions, because if we're on 3K already, that is ridiculous. So go and hit the subscribe button. It's doing really, really well. Ricky, thank you as always for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Enjoyed it, so thank you very much.
Always enjoying it. We could talk all night. We've still got questions coming in. I don't want to miss anybody out. Guys, if we have missed your comments, we don't do it on purpose. Please just drop it underneath on the video, and I'll reply to you there. Always check the comments. Hit that like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Hit that sub button if you like the content as well. And all that's left to say is stay smiling, keep positive, and we'll be back very, very soon.